I see more and more gamers asking which RTS games have an active player base, and also what is a good return or entry point into the RTS genre. And I could easily answer that with Command & Conquer, StarCraft, Company of Heroes, Warcraft, Dawn of War, Age of Empires and Mythology games, as well as Beyond All Reason, Tempest Rising or Zero K, and a host of other games. But I would be disregarding a number of important factors with such a simple answer. And broadly speaking, these are price, quality of single player, gameplay learning curve, graphics and player population. On top of these, a massive caveat is that I will be talking about only games which have fully working resource collection and base building gameplay features with an enemy you can destroy and demolish their base. This means I will not be mentioning titles from the base defense strategy or real-time tactics subgenres, but you can learn about those as well in my other videos, like the one I will link up here and down in the description, along with links to all the games shown in this video. Starting with the first game on this list, which is Beyond All Reason, I am going to attempt something I rarely do, and that is to quantify to an extent its beginner-friendly qualities and player-base level and health using this handy chart according to the 5 factors I mentioned in the intro and my personal experience as the 6th factor. I hope you will find this method useful, but if you have any suggestions or arguments against it, feel free to voice them in the comments below.
Unit lost.
So, BAR is a play-for-free game created by volunteers and RTS enthusiasts, which shouldn't be confused with free-to-play, as the latter one often comes from profit-driven developers and publishers with strings attached and advantages you can purchase with your credit card. Because of this, its price score is 10 out of 10. On the other hand, its single-player score is just 2 out of 10, on the account of work-in-progress onboarding and tutorial, limited skirmish potential, and no scripted campaign. Now this is going to change, as during the recent celebration of 70,000 Discord members, we learned of its new lore and planned campaign. Add to that the now signed deal with a publisher Hooded Horse to bring the game to Steam with a full single-player campaign and extra content, while keeping the original free version alive and crossplay between the two versions. When it comes to its gameplay learning curve, it has simplified resource collection and just 2 of them with fixed extraction and generation points. There are practically no unit abilities, as this is not a game about unit micro. It is about combining those numerous types of simple units and discovering almost endless strategic possibilities for using these combos. But with 400 different units and lots of buildings, all spread across 3 different factions and 3 tech levels, and a high number of controls to learn, I have to bump its learning curve up to 7 out of 10 points. Graphics are not one of BAR's important elements, because you mostly play zoomed out to the point you see icons and not units, hence gaining a score of 4 out of 10. It is also made to run on low-end hardware and in battles with thousands upon thousands of units across vast maps, but its devs do make specific efforts to make it more beautiful at very low cost of performance. Probably the most important score for this game is 9 out of 10 for its player population. Pick any time, on any day, and you can find fellow gamers for any type of a match, from 1v1 to 8-player co-op and 16+ player PvP. There are conflicting reports on the level of multiplayer chat and behavior toxicity from players, and after my several hundred hours of playing it, I personally haven't witnessed enough of it to even bother me, giving it a 1 out of 10. That means in total we have 8 negative points and 25 positive points for Beyond All Reason. The next beginner-friendly game with a good population of players I would suggest is Age of Empires II, especially its definitive edition. The price tag of course varies across regions and platforms, especially during sales, and it does have pricey expansions. It's also both very old and remade, so I give it 4 out of 10 for its price. Those two aspects also help it give it a 10 out of 10 for quality of single player, which includes amazing onboarding with the Art of War tutorial, Chronicle storytelling campaign, and many regular ones along with co-op functionality and a very customizable skirmish mode. Its gameplay learning curve deserves a 6 out of 10 due to the age-tech system, manual management of workers, several types of resources spread across the map, and requiring optimal building placement for maximizing the economy. This is old-school gaming, and while that makes it harder, it also gives you a better appreciation of how far the genre has come. The facelift of the definitive edition is quite substantial, but I must say, as a history buff for ancient civilizations, I would love to be able to zoom in more and enjoy the action. The unique painting-like aesthetics still turns heads to this day, so my score for its graphics is 7 out of 10. There certainly isn't a shortage of players in Age of Empires II, so I give it 10 out of 10 for its player population. But its skill-based matchmaking system for new players can be quite punishing, and there are so many good and experienced players that unfortunately some turn to making alternative accounts and stomping newbies into the dust. Because of this and occasional toxicity, I give it a 3 out of 10. If your experience differs, please feel free to tell me so in the comments. So in total, we have 9 negative points and 31 positive points for Age of Empires II and its definitive edition. We had a massive scale RTS game and a medium scale game, so let's go down to the small scale with another definitive edition, and this time of Warhammer 40k Dawn of War. Its price score is 5 out of 10 because it's both cheaper than the previous game and there is nothing extra to pay for. All of its single-player content is available to its players, and there is a lot of it due to all the expansions. Its tutorial is adequate and skirmish a dream come true for all Warhammer 40k fans, giving it a 9 out of 10 for single-player quality. This, however, is flipped for the gameplay learning curve, because not only do you have 9 playable factions with a huge variety of units and their weapons, attacks and abilities, but also a tug-of-war capture system points for resources, cover mechanics, management of squads and several tech levels. The smaller scale makes it more manageable, but still I have to give it a 8 out of 10. As for the graphics, the original Dawn of War game wasn't a looker, and this one is just an updated version of the same, not an upgrade. So, with all due respect to every Warhammer 40k fan and your love for its art and animations, this game's graphics get 6 out of 10. The mentioned fans do play this game and have been playing its older versions for many years, but it's not a huge player base, forcing me to give it 4 out of 10 in that regard. Its online player base is friendly enough, despite or maybe because of their massive experience pool, and besides a few bad apples, I can give it a 2 out of 10 on that front, bringing us to a total of 10 negative points and 24 positive ones. Now with Rusted Warfare RTS, we go back to larger scale warfare and simpler resource collection, even simpler than Beyond All Reason, as there is only the one type and it's spread across the map, so you construct upgradable extractors on top of it. But at least you can construct your own resource producers as well. This, along with a smaller roster of units spread across several tech levels, makes me give it 5 out of 10 for the gameplay learning curve. Its price is minimal, so even when not on sale, it's dirt cheap, giving it 9 out of 10 for cost. Its single player quality is low, with some separate scenarios making up its short campaign, and there are some other game modes for you to try out as well, like survival and challenges, but that pushes the mark only to 4 out of 10. Its graphics are simple and utilitarian, which means it's no looker with a 3 out of 10, but also that it works on almost any PC or laptop. Despite its low price, you will be hard pressed to find someone to play with online, so it gets a 2 out of 10 for player population, while that also means 1 out of 10 for any problems or toxicity. This means Trusted Warfare RTS ends up with 6 negative points and 18 positive points. Another new version of a classic RTS is Age of Mythology Retold, which interestingly enough is mentioned by some gamers I know as one of the harder ones, and yet, on the other hand, my own son learned its basics at the age of 6 and as his very first RTS game. Probably due to all the titans and god powers he loves, and I never even let him play with the worker automatization option. What this means is that while on the surface you can get into it easily enough, supported by lots of quality of life features, but as soon as you scratch the surface, you find yourself in a very deep lake, earning it a 5 out of 10 for its gameplay learning curve. Just as my kid found out the hard way when we played his first few multiplayer matches and we got our butts whooped in 2v2 PvP. And that wouldn't be possible if there wasn't a healthy player population, which isn't massive, so it gets 5 out of 10 points. In those matches I haven't seen any toxicity, so I can't give it more than 2 out of 10 despite reading some worse experiences from other players. Its price, put together with the current DLCs and extra content, is worth only 4 out of 10, and it would have been a 3 had not so much effort been put into making it look fantastic, and able to draw in a new audience like my son, making me give it 8 out of 10 for graphics. The last category is where it truly shines, with a 9 out of 10 for its multiple narrative campaigns, with scripted events and cutscenes, tutorials, skirmish with a lot of options, Arena of the Gods and the Gauntlet gameplay modes. This means Age of Mythology Retold gets a total of 7 negative points and 26 positive points. Now you might disagree with me on this next one, but StarCraft II is a game I won't be letting my son play for several more years. First of all, due to how harsh its players can be on newbies outside of co-op game modes, for which I give it 4 out of 10, and also the depth of its gameplay and height of its learning curve, which I give 8 out of 10. Anyone who tried to do a deep dive into this game can testify to this. Blizzard and its new owners don't ever sell their games cheaply on Battle.net, so it would get 3 out of 10 for its price, but a large section of its content is actually free, except for the extra campaigns and some other co-op content. This makes it very hard to finalize the exact grade for its price, because if looked from the multiplayer aspect, it would be 7 out of 10, and for the single player aspect, 3 out of 10. So in the end, I have to split it down the middle at 5 out of 10. The other 3 factors are now going to totally flip this narrative. First, the player population, which is still going strong 15 plus years after its release date, no matter which online game mode you wish to play, making me give it 10 out of 10. Its customized and personalized system of onboarding, its magnificent campaigns, characters, stories, cinematics, and plentiful game modes make me want to give it 11 out of 10 for the quality of single player, but I have to settle for 10 out of 10. Graphics would end up getting the same grade, but 10 out of 10 for a 15 plus year old game with no real improvements wouldn't be fair to other games in this video, so I have to lower it to 8 out of 10. Totaling these points, we get 12 negative points and 33 positive points for StarCraft II. The last time Electronic Arts graced us with something worth carrying the Command & Conquer name was the Remastered edition, which holds 2 games, the original Command & Conquer and the first Red Alert game. I will show this duo on a single chart for simplicity's sake, and because both were given about the same treatment in this new version, which means its visuals and graphics can be scored at 7 out of 10 immediately. Its player population has diminished since it was originally released, but people never stop playing Command & Conquer games, so I can give it 4 out of 10. And in fact, if you go to the website CNC Community and the stats section, you can see exactly where all the players are and what they are playing across so many versions and mods of these games. In one of my last RTS news videos, I also showed you how to play the community-run CNC Generals Online version, so I will leave a link to that one too. Its players are probably among the most passionate in the RTS space, so a 3 out of 10 for toxicity is a must. Usually, you can buy this remastered edition on Steam or EA's app cheaply on sale, and its base price is not high, so I can give it 7 out of 10 for the price. Mechanically, these are among the simplest games to start with. Just one resource, simple tech upgrade, no unit abilities, and they don't have a terribly high ceiling because they are not reaching gameplay elements, so the learning curve is at most 4 out of 10. Where this version shines is its content with masterful campaigns, cinematic scenes with real actors, unforgettable story and characters, and fantastic music. This remaster was a true labor of love for some of the original developers, and so if it just had more gameplay modes or options for skirmish, its single player experience would be 10 out of 10 instead of a 9. This means we have 7 negative points and 27 positive points for Command & Conquer Remastered. You might think mentioning Age of Empires IV is unnecessary for this video and list, after the definitive edition of the second game and the Retold edition of Age of Mythology, but I think there is enough of a difference in these games to warrant talking about the last Age of Empires sequel as well. I also know most of you consider its graphics, let's say just below the usual level for the franchise, and I agree, so it gets 6 out of 10 for that factor. But being the latest also makes it possible to keep a high player population, so I give it 8 out of 10. Its price is high, there are fresh DLCs, so it gets only 3 out of 10 points. Its historical focus means it appeals to people interested in that topic, and its campaigns are somewhat immersive as you lead the Normans during their conquest of Britain through a scripted sequence, for example. It has other single-player content besides the campaigns, like Skirmish and the Crucible, while the expansive tutorial called The Art of War is also present. This means I can't give it anything less than a 9 out of 10 for single-player quality, while the multiplayer crowd can make your experience far less enjoyable, so in that regard it gets a 4 out of 10. Lastly, we have the gameplay learning curve factor, which presented a bit of a challenge for me to score. On one hand, you have plenty of quality of life improvements from the rest of the franchise, but on the other, the famous age system of tech advancement and gameplay changes, as that happens along with several resources to fight for on the map. I had to base my score on more than just my personal experience, and the final count fell on 5 out of 10. If you disagree, feel free to say so in the comments. With this last factor, we have 9 negative points and 26 positive points for Age of Empires IV. Another long-standing franchise is Company of Heroes, and while it seems to be diminishing in quality in my book, I will only talk about its latest third game in the series in this video. And the biggest disappointment for me personally was the single player and its campaigns, which while new and different, especially the Italian one, still suffer from lower quality execution and story, meaning Company of Heroes 3 gets 6 out of 10 for its single player from me, despite good skirmish, many maps and more such content. Its price isn't low even on sale, and there are several DLCs, so 2 out of 10 points. Company of Heroes games are similar to Dawn of War in many ways when it comes to gameplay, and as such they are not easy to learn or master. It has fewer factions, true, but it also has the battle group system, so I have to give it 7 out of 10 for the gameplay learning curve. This of course leads to problems in multiplayer, with angry players at each other, meaning it gets 4 out of 10 for toxicity. But there are a lot of players to play with, so it gets 8 out of 10 for the player population. The graphics are good, but not great as many have pointed out, especially in comparison to the second game of the franchise, for which I give it 6 out of 10. I do have to say that the developers have given the sequel a lot of polish lately, and it gets regular patches and content updates, so more and more players are coming around about it. In total, that gets us to 11 negative points and 22 positive ones. Basically, the only high-budget and fresh game on this list is Tempest Rising, and its graphics are top-notch in my book, giving it a 9 out of 10 in that regard. The Unreal Engine pulls the cart in that department, but has made other things much more difficult for both developers and players. While some might not have fully enjoyed its single-player campaigns, I personally can't give them anything less than 8 out of 10, and the skirmish has been updated with more options. Now, the price is still high, so it gets 4 out of 10, and it would have been a 3 if it had DLCs, which it currently does not, while it does go on sale frequently. Tempest Rising does feature 3 factions, but the third has yet to become fully playable, and all are honestly complicated to learn to play properly. They are also quite asymmetrical, the Veti in particular. The recent open beta gave a short window to play with the Veti again, and I personally like the new version of this faction even if it is micro heavy. There are plenty of unit abilities, even buildings have abilities or operating modes, so it gets 6 out of 10 for the gameplay learning curve, and it would have been a 7, but it does only have a single resource if we don't count the power or GDF's intel. Despite a strong start, most players have stopped playing Tempest Rising in multiplayer, and while occasional new content does draw these players back, it's hard to find anyone to play with or against, meaning it gets 2 out of 10 for player population. In the ranked and custom PvP matches I played, and I played a lot of them, I almost never experienced anything toxic from players, so it gets 1 out of 10 in that regard. This means in total, it has 7 negative and 23 positive points.
Insufficient funds.
Now, the game that is famous for its unit abilities, and you even have plenty of heroes with multiple active and passive skills, and even a freaking item inventory, is Warcraft 3. This, along with the upgrades for units and buildings in each tech level, 2 resources, a system of both different armor and attack types, and 4 factions that play differently, is the reason I have to give it 7 out of 10 for the gameplay learning curve. Similarly to StarCraft II, it isn't cheap even on sale, but I'm going to give its price a 5 instead of a 4, because you can get the Warcraft Remastered Battle Chest with 3 games instead of 1, and as the name says, all remastered. That remaster for Warcraft 3 was a hot mess when it originally came out, and while it was improved, it still left a bad taste for many players, which badmouth it to this day. But the graphical upgrade is undeniable, so it gets 8 out of 10 for the graphics. Content and quality wise, you have several most memorable campaigns in all of RTS, or dare I even say all of gaming, and with the skirmish options, it gets a 10 out of 10. There are still plenty of players to play with in multiplayer, and sometimes it even experiences boosts in player population, so it gets 6 out of 10 on that front. Those players are known to be toxic on occasion, so a 2 out of 10 on that account. That means one of my favorite games ever gets 9 negative points and 29 positive ones.
Why are you poking me again? Why don't you lead an army instead of touching me?
Another game that has always been dear to my heart, and one that has helped to ignite my love for the genre in general, is Rise of Nations, which does have an extended edition playable on Steam. It still screams for a remake or remaster despite this, so it can only get 4 out of 10 for graphics. It is more than 20 years old after all. Naturally, with that age, there is almost no one to play with in multiplayer, so it gets 1 out of 10 for player population. And with no one to scream noob at you, 1 out of 10 for toxicity. Those were thankfully all of its low points, because now we move on to quality of single player, and there it shines with multiple campaigns, a risk-like conquer the world map to play on, and great skirmish options, meaning it gets 9 out of 10. Its price is low, and very low when on sale, so it gets 8 out of 10 there. Last but the greatest is its gameplay learning curve, which gets an 8 out of 10 for its over-the-top age system with 4 individual tech trees across 8 ages. Land, air, and naval units have to be upgraded in each age, and you even have long-range missiles and nukes by the end. The number of resources to manage grows with those ages up to 7, and there are lots and lots of tech upgrades. The only unit abilities are thankfully limited to the General's unit. Despite its age, Rise of Nations had an amazing and practical unit formation and facing system, and even simplified army logistics. This makes the total stand at 9 negative points and 22 positive ones. Spellforce III is probably one of the strangest games on this list, and for numerous reasons. First of all, this is an RTS/RPG hybrid because of its heroes, who get experience during combat and level up with an RPG style skill tree. Its single-player storytelling campaign makes this RPG style even more obvious and provides a great learning opportunity, so coupled with a bunch of extra skirmish and skirmish-like game modes and maps, it gets 8 out of 10 for the quality of single-player. Its content is spread across several versions, and it's separated into the now upgraded main game, 2 standalone expansions, and the free multiplayer version. This makes it very expensive and free at the same time, which averages to about 5 out of 10 for the price. Despite the free online PvP multiplayer, there aren't a lot of players, so it gets a 2 out of 10 for that and just 1 out of 10 for online toxicity. Its nice modern graphics should still make it an enticing option for you to pick up, and I give them 7 out of 10. Although there are some questionable choices devs made with visuals I don't particularly like.
Where to?
Lastly, we have the gameplay learning curve, which is also hard to properly score. There are several types of resources, but their collection and management isn't really complicated. There are many factions to play with, but again, they function similarly. Then there is the system of capture points on maps and even creeps, which sometimes drop loot. As I said, this is a very strange RTS, and so for its gameplay learning curve it gets a 5 out of 10 from me. This totals to 6 negative and 22 positive points. The other massive skill and also play for free RTS based on the Spring engine is 0K, meaning it gets 10 out of 10 for the price. It has a different style of customization than factions, and you make the choice of a commander type and type of unit factories you want to build once the match starts. With that and its simple metal and energy economy, it gets a lower gameplay curve of 6 out of 10. It could be lower, but due to dozens of air, naval and ground units being able to change the terrain in several ways, and a couple of other game mechanics to learn, it has to remain a 6. The graphics are unfortunately not great, and when you play it zoomed out, most of the time that doesn't feel too bad. But you lose out on the spectacle many of us enjoy in these kinds of games. So until it receives a major visual overhaul, it has to get a 3 out of 10 for graphics. Another such low grade is for the player population, but multiplayer is still playable, so 0K gets 3 out of 10 for that metric as well. With a low population, it can't get more than 1 out of 10 for player toxicity in multiplayer. One thing that puts it ahead of similar games is the campaign content and skirmish options. There are many maps to play on with a variety of AI bots, and after you finish the tutorial, you're treated to a lengthy single-player campaign, designed to slowly introduce you to new units, but it lacks a proper storytelling experience, cinematics and similar things you might expect, but it's possible to play it in co-op. For this, it gets 3 out of 10 for the quality of single-player. When we total this up, 0K gets 7 negative points and 19 positive ones. Next one is another 2-in-1 game, and even a bit more, as not only do I have to mention Battle for Middle-earth 1 and its sequel, but also the fantastic community made The Elder Scrolls mod for this sequel. This is an old game, even abandoned, but fans created the all-in-one launcher, which does everything for you so you can enjoy several fantastic single-player campaigns and a skirmish with many races, and on a bunch of maps up to 8 players in both games and that test mod. This means its quality of single-player gets an 8, which I will bump to 9 out of 10 because of the War of the Ring gameplay mode. Because of the arena created for the all-in-one launcher, you can play its multiplayer and it's still alive, so it gets 2 out of 10 for the player population and 1 out of 10 for online toxicity. The graphics are of course dated, and even when you play that test mod, the age of the game and its engine really shows, so I can't give it more than a 5 out of 10. Considering you can get all this content absolutely free, it must get a 10 out of 10 for the price. That leaves just the gameplay learning curve, which is problematic because the two games have a very different resource collection system. In the first one you have specific building slots, and using some for farms gives you the only resource there is, but in the second you have to spread out those resource collection buildings across the map, and if you overlay them you get reduced income. Then you have the unlockable spells, lots of unit upgrades, a significant unit veterancy system, and even heroes who have their own passive and active skills. All put together, it is a 5 out of 10 on my scale. This means Battle for Middle-earth and its sequel and the test mod get 6 negative points and 26 positive points. The last game on this extensive list is Supreme Commander, and like the previous one, it has 2 games and a community-driven Forged Alliance Forever client, which is an upgrade on the last version and expansion of the original game, which is Forged Alliance, hence the name. Unlike the Battle for Middle-earth, however, the community did not accept the Supreme Commander sequel for various reasons, which I won't go into now, but you are free to do so in the comments, so I will focus on the original one in this video. The price of these games is very low, even when not on sale, so I give them 8 out of 10 for the price. The single-player campaigns are excellent and have survived the test of time, while the skirmish is great with a lot of AI bot options and a variety of maps, even if you play the second game, so it gets 9 out of 10 for the quality of single-player. Its graphics are dated, no matter which version or game you play, so it gets 5 out of 10 on that side. There are some players to find on various discords or directly through the Forged Alliance Forever multiplayer client, so it gets 2 out of 10 for player population and 1 out of 10 for online toxicity. The gameplay is not easy to learn and even harder to master. The economy is streaming, which means you constantly have to balance income and spending. There is mass and energy as the two resources, each gained very differently. 3 tech levels of buildings and units change the gameplay considerably as you play, and there is the commander unit to look after, unless you want a nuclear detonation inside your base. With air, naval and land units of various types, 4 factions, and even building adjacency bonuses, it gets 8 out of 10 for the gameplay learning curve. This means it gets 9 negative and 24 positive points. Before I give you the leaderboard and rank these games, I have to once again mention that this list is RTS games with base building only, which is why there is no Homeworld, My Beloved, which has one of the best single-player campaigns in history, just like World in Conflict, and I haven't added Broken Arrow despite its lively multiplayer community. Then there are Empires, Populous the Beginning, Total Annihilation, Stronghold, Nordgard, all cool games, but I had to stop somewhere. Now, if you want to learn about the best single-player games, I have to rank Warcraft 3, StarCraft II and Age of Empires II Definitive Edition at the top, each at 10 points. Followed by Command & Conquer Remastered Edition, Battle for Middle-earth, Supreme Commander, Rise of Nations Extended Edition, Age of Empires IV, Warhammer 40k Dawn of War Definitive Edition, and Age of Mythology Retold with 9 points. And those with 8 points, Spellforce III and Tempest Rising. Remember, this is not only about the quality of the campaign, but other single-player game modes as well. By price, it's not even a contest at 10 points when I include free games like Beyond All Reasons, 0k and Battle for Middle-earth. But this is why I have an entire video dedicated to play for free RTS games, and I will link it both up here on the right and down in the description. When it comes to cheap paid options, at the top, with 8 points, are Rusted Warfare RTS, Rise of Nations Extended Edition, and Supreme Commander, followed by Command & Conquer Remastered. If graphics are the bridge too far for you when playing these games, the choice is easy. Tempest Rising at 9 points, followed by Age of Mythology Retold, StarCraft II and Warcraft III Reforged at 8 points. Depending on your preferred visual style, you could also enjoy Age of Empires II Definitive Edition, Spellforce III and Command & Conquer Remastered. You could say I am being unfair to Age of Empires IV and Company of Heroes 3, but in my opinion, those games fell short of their expected visual quality. Most popular games on this list with the multiplayer crowd and with 10 points are Age of Empires II Definitive Edition and StarCraft II, while Beyond All Reason with 9 points is almost as popular, but due to no real single player it's unfair to compare it directly. Other games you can still regularly play in multiplayer are Age of Empires IV and Company of Heroes 3 with 8 points, and Warcraft III Reforged with 6 points, while Age of Mythology Retold and Warhammer 40k Dawn of War Definitive Edition have far fewer players. Most toxic are Age of Empires, Company of Heroes, Command & Conquer and StarCraft II players. Feel free to dispute that in the comments if you wish. Lastly, we come to the gameplay learning curve leaderboard, which frankly was the hardest one for me to properly compare due to how much variety in gameplay top RTS games have. Easiest game to learn seems to be the Command & Conquer Remastered with 4 points, followed by Age of Empires 4, Battle for Middle-earth, Spellforce 3, Rusted Warfare RTS and Age of Mythology Retold at 5 points. Then one step higher, at 6, I have placed Age of Empires II Definitive Edition, Tempest Rising and 0k, while Company of Heroes 3, Beyond All Reason and Warcraft 3 are at 7. Meaning hardest RTS games, which are still beginner friendly to learn, are StarCraft II, Supreme Commander, Rise of Nations Extended Edition and Warhammer 40k Dawn of War Definitive Edition. I am sure this will be the most hotly debated ranking, and frankly, debate is good, especially for new players of the genre reading replies of the most experienced players among you. So I invite you to give me your own gameplay learning curve leaderboard in the comments below. If you think you need the final ranking for this video, let me take that last bullet for you and say that if we go by the maximum positive points, the top beginner-friendly game with an active multiplayer player base is StarCraft II with 33 points, followed closely by Age of Empires II and its Definitive Edition at 31 points. This is why some people say the genre is stuck in its golden age days and hasn't advanced since. But if I subtract the negative from positive points, Age of Empires II Definitive Edition comes up on top with 22 over StarCraft II 21 points. And so I can end this video with the total rank of these 16 games, which comes out to, going from lowest to highest score, Company of Heroes 3 at 11 points, Rusted Warfare RTS and 0k both with 12 points, Rise of Nations Extended Edition with 13 points, Warhammer 40k Dawn of War Definitive Edition 14 points, Supreme Commander and Age of Empires 4 with 15 points each, Tempest Rising 16, Beyond All Reason at 17, Spellforce 3 with 18 points, Age of Mythology Retold at 19. While Warcraft 3 Reforged, Battle for Middle-earth games and Command & Conquer Remastered share 20 points, and StarCraft II takes the second place with 21 points, leaving Age of Empires II Definitive Edition to take the crown at 22 points. I am not a fan of giving quantitative grades to games, and I believe each game changes over time, so depending on your feedback, this might be the first and only video for which I use such a system. For more new and fresh RTS games, check out my videos here as cards on the screen and links in the description. Thank you for watching and happy gaming!